Visiting the village in Turkey always leaves me feeling so inspired, at peace and refreshed. I learned so much in regards to homemaking, homesteading, and it's just so nice to have my children playing with simple things like green tomatoes and enjoying that mundane activity. It was so nice for us to spend a few days there. My son enjoyed checking for the eggs every now and then and got very excited when he did find some. His biggest find was 6 eggs. We went to Turkey at a really nice time of harvest, so there were fresh fruits, figs, pomegranates, nuts and apples. It was so beautiful to just eat direct from the tree or the plant or the ground, and to also have my children witness how things grow. So, normally we would go to the supermarket and buy walnuts, and we always add that to our porridge in the mornings, but it was the first time that my son, and I'm also learning too, was able to see, how the walnut is cracked open, and the beauty of that as well, and the peppers growing, and the fact that the eggs come from the chickens that have laid them. It was such a precious trip for my children and I to learn about those sorts of things. Here, a beautiful fruit, cranberries, I think it is. In Turkish it's called kızılcık. Very sweet, lovely taste are being picked, and as you can see, we enjoyed the nature. We were outside more than we were inside, which I think is so precious because, research is showing that we need to be outdoors. Children and adults alike, you need to spend, a couple of hours outside for good health, mentally and physically. This is a tree of a beautiful new taste that I'd never had before, called çötmük, turpentine tree. It almost had a sweet date-like taste. It was a tiny little fruit that was delicious as well. I really love the fact that my father-in-law teaches us about the nature and what he would eat from within the nature growing up, and his memories of harvest and growth. I think this idea of connecting with the nature is really powerful and really special, and I think that learning experience was really invaluable for my children, for me as well, to come back feeling at peace and healed. The city life is beautiful, but I think there is such a serenity and peace and calm to be found in the country, farm, village style life. Wandering chickens, distant bleating of the sheep and sound of the cows, and just the air and the leaves, fluttering around in the breeze, smoke coming from the log fires that are being made. Just such a beauty. And it was just so nice for my son as well, especially both my sons. I noticed would stop for a moment and watch just even how a chicken behaves, how a chicken moves, what their grandparents were getting up to, like here the wild mushrooms that were collected and cleaned. Early morning, one of the mornings, we went to experience how the milk was sort of taken from the cow, how the cow was milked, and that was incredible. My husband guessed that it was probably around about 3 litres of milk that they gain each morning from this process, and from that they drink it after boiling it and getting rid of any bacteria. They turn it into cheese, into yogurts, they add it to soups and different things, and it's used, and it's fresh, and really, really amazing how that is done. And it was so nice for us to experience and appreciate that as well, and taste the difference. As you can see here, the milk is then strained and just cleaned out, so that top bit which is left in the strainer isn't used, just to make it as clean as possible. And then that milk would then be boiled on the fire just to get rid of any final bacterias before it can be drunk or used or eaten in any way. Here the wild mushrooms are being roasted and cooked, and they were delicious. So such an earthy taste, which you would expect, I suppose, with mushrooms. Again, the children were very entertained by these green tomatoes throughout the whole trip, which my in-laws and grandparents were slowly getting pickled up and used for various dishes and chutneys and whatever else. I think my son has a bit of a taste there and quickly realises that is not yummy. Let's put that down. The biggest excitement for my eldest son was just having a tractor come by every now and then, and he could shout out tractor, tractor. Real life television, real life experiences. I think these trips are invaluable, and whilst I'm thinking about and don't know for sure yet what to do in terms of my children and their education, I do know that a big positive of things like home education are probably going to be the flexibility to go abroad at different times of the year and stay for periods of time, perhaps on the farm or in the village, and just those life experiences I think are invaluable for learning. Here you can actually see something called, well, my husband translated it as like a water pumpkin, and we've looked it up and it's called calabash, used for various different reasons and eaten. I think they can also be made into like pots because of their shape. I thought they looked quite unique and interesting pumpkins. Here my husband is coming with a very old school, almost a Hogwarts-like key for something called a hambar, an ambar, a grain storage where all the grains, the wheat that is collected are stored and then either sold to factories for money or used, converted to flour or bulgur wheat or whatever else. So my husband has memories of sort of carrying large bags of wheat and taking them to this storage here. So he was trying to show me, but it was very dark. But you can sort of see there are little, and this is very old actually, quite a few generations old, little sort of boxed up under areas to put the wheat into, little sections there, as you can see. There were no toys, there wasn't much technology at all, but my children and I, we had the best few days there, and it was so refreshing to stay there and enjoy and appreciate that life. And elements of it do impact my own homemaking lifestyle here in England. Here, the no waste attitude is so important. So apples are collected from the ground for the animals. Walnuts that have fallen are collected, and each one is checked to see if there might be a good one amongst the bunch. And I think that's so special for me and my children to witness, like the no waste feeling of, every walnut is so precious because it's been grown from the tree, or every tomato or whatever else. Not to waste. It's not just something that you can just get from the shop so easily. There's such a beautiful process in how it grows, and I think that appreciation is so precious, and I find I value it more when I witness it so intimately in the village or on the farm. I've had that experience myself this year with growing things and not wanting to waste a single leaf or part of what I've grown because of all the efforts that it went that I went through to grow it, and also just the beauty of how precious it is. Cooking always took a while longer because obviously you have to set the fire and gather the ingredients, but that made it all the more precious and delicious, because it was, you know, fresh, organic from the farm, cooked, you know, with simple spices, simple ingredients, but amazing. Team effort when cooking as well. Even making tea isn't a simple just switch of the flick, boil a kettle of water. It takes time. You use the samovar, you fill it up and you heat the water, and then you gradually get your water boiling, and then you can make the tea or whatever else. And it just makes you appreciate it more. I felt like, oh, that cup of tea was so well deserved. Nothing beats the crackle of a fire in the evening after a day. This bread here was amazing. It's called a lavash. It's made and it dries quite quickly once you make it fresh. And then once it's dried, it can last up to a year. And then they're just piled up and left in the house. And then when you want to use it, so for example now she's preparing them to use and eat, you just sprinkle water onto it, and slowly it will moisten and soften, and it will not be that dry at all. It will be soft, beautiful, lovely to eat bread. And yeah, the figs were absolutely delicious. In fact, our whole trip was incredible.